Before we get started, let's introduce everyone in this meeting. I'm Alicia Bergeron, and when I call your name, can you please confirm that you're both present and that you can hear me? We're going to start with the commissioners. Sandy Brock.
Here, and I can hear you.
Okay. Patrick, you're on mute.
Sorry. Here, and I can hear you.
Okay. Helen.
Here, and I can hear you.
Okay. And John.
Here, and I can hear you.
Okay. And for staff, we have Leah Cameron. She's the agent.
Good to go.
And Samantha Lyon, the assistant.
Present, and I can hear you.
Okay, excellent. So the anticipated speakers on the agenda tonight are, I'm going to butcher everyone's name and I apologize. Teresa from BSC Group.
Portante, yes, I can hear you. Thank you.
Excellent. And Robert Murphy of Robert G. Murphy and Associates.
Yes, I'm present and I hear you.
Okay, excellent. So this open meeting of the Conservation Commission is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12th, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and such the governor's order suspends the requirements of the open meeting law to have all meetings publicly accessible in a physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order, which you can find posted on the town's website, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely, so as long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along the deliberations of the meeting. For this meeting, the Conservation Commission is convening by telephone and video conference via Zoom, as posted on the town's website, which identified how the public may join. Please note that this meeting is being recorded. All supporting materials have been provided to the Commission, and they're also available on the town's website. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda. So before we get started, I'm going to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business to make sure that we have accurate meeting minutes. I'm acting as the chair this evening, so I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they've concluded their remarks, I will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comments, questions, or motions that they may have. So please hold until your name is called. Further, please remember to mute your phone or computer when you're not speaking to minimize the amount of background noise. After members have spoken, I will afford the public comments as follows. I will first read comments or questions received in advance of the meeting, followed by real-time board and or applicant responses. I will then read real-time questions or comments that are typed in by the computer that are present in the chat feature, and then we will follow that up with real-time board and applicant responses. So please note, anyone wishing to contribute comments or questions via the chat, they need to be addressed to everyone and not just to a sole individual. Finally, each vote in this meeting will be taken by a roll call so that we can make sure we record everyone. So that's all covered. It is only 7:06. So we can go do business discussion items.
Oh, we do discussion items?
Yeah.
And maybe 93 North Street.
Sure.
Lee, is that a good one to start with?
Yeah.
Okay. So, you want to give the background, Alicia, or do you want to?
I sure can. Hold on. Let me swap documents. Here. Okay. How about, can you just, do you want to do that, Leah? Because I'm.
Sure. So we've been talking ongoing about 93 North Street with the Ingval family. They are in 3 different of the boxes here on the video conference. And so we have been talking about potentially accepting their donation for conservation land. One of the outstanding items was the lead and arsenic contamination and what we were going to do about accepting the property, but minimizing risk to the town. So after the last meeting, we had our soil consultant talk to their risk assessor and write up a document about the risk to the town and the potential to use the property for passive recreation. The family has done the same as well with their soil consultant. So getting those two documents back, if you guys have had a chance to review them, they're in Dropbox. The main conclusion is that passive recreation would be safe. They also encouraged things that we talked about a little bit last time, like maybe having a paved path or boardwalk of some kind in the small section that would have to pass through the contaminated area. One of the things that Jen Anderson, the Grafton Recreation Director, who's also on here, mentioned last time, when we walked the property in person, it's very overgrown with bittersweet. The family talked about this last time as well. So it'll be pretty easy to contain people to the path that we end up making, because you're not going to be able to get too far off of that path. So we're just coming back tonight with the results and the documents from the risk assessors and taking the discussion further.
Sure, this is Sandy Brock, a commission member. So I would first just like to thank everyone who's been involved, because we've had both the town and the involves that have got together with their experts. And at the last meeting, I think what we were really trying to do is get some recommendation and understanding a little bit more about risk potential and mitigation and so forth. So I did have time to read the opinion of the risk assessment, and I think it's very thorough. It's written like someone who knows the regulation is trying to say some things, but will not say every single thing. But I think it was a very balanced report, and I'm feeling comfortable with it. I do think we should take under consideration some of their recommendations, but I think there's a path forward here, and like to hear some of the other commission members on their thoughts of after they've read that opinion on the risk assessment.
Pat Hegel, commission member also. I did have a chance to read the report as well. And you know, I'm mostly echoing Sandy's comments. I think that I'm comfortable after reading that going forward. And you know, I think it's a great way to preserve the open space, and I'm glad we went through the exercise and got the reports on the land, and got a real expert weigh in on it. And having that in hand, I'm comfortable also, and appreciative to the family and everyone for working through this as well.
This is Helen Cheney. It's the first time I've ever done anything like this, so bear with me, folks. Can you hear me? I can see me. Okay.
Can hear you.
Okay, that's wonderful. I am delighted in the fact that we've come to this point in the road. I think that this donation will only make the town of Grafton more a beautiful place to be and a beautiful place to explore. And this gift that we are getting is really a jewel in the crown. And the crown is really our town, Grafton. And we have to, as commissioners, we have to think about the future generations. And this is going to give open space just one more beautiful section that our next generations after that would be able to enjoy. The boardwalk suggestion is to go through the questionable area. However, approach this is an acceptable idea, but I was thinking of taking it one step further. I was suggesting that we would attractively fence in the parcel of questionable nature, and then establish a pollinating garden. And I think that wild brambles and multiflora rose, bittersweets are great deterrents to curious investigating folk, but a fence acts as a barrier, and flowers are beautiful and educational. And if we even looked one step more into this, we could invite or arrange with perhaps Worcester County beekeepers to establish some hives within this fenced in area, and possibly produce some honey with acknowledgement to Virginia Engvall. I think that it's a doable project. I can't wait to explore it further, walking through it. And I really am so happy that the Engvalls would want to take on something like this and donate this lovely, lovely parcel of property to the town. I commend you. I think it's a fantastic thing. And I'm so happy that we have done our due diligence and gone through the exercises to get a clean slate, if you want to say that. And I thank you, my fellow commissioners, for letting me have this moment to rejoice. That's what I have to say.
Okay, so this is Alicia Bergeron. So I just went through the risk assessment, and based off of reading the risk assessment and the recommendations, I think that it makes sense for the town to accept this donation. I think it's reasonable as long as we take some of the appropriate precautions in that area, like such as the boardwalk or paving that particular area. But the boardwalk sounds reasonable, and I know that's what the recreation department had talked about last week. Obviously, that's not for us to decide, but just as long as that portion is not, in my opinion, as long as that portion isn't left as the bare dirt for the area where we're going to have like the walking area, understanding that there's bittersweet on both sides, I think it makes sense, and I think it's going to be a great space for the town.
So Leah, we have to make a recommendation to the selectmen. Is that the next steps?
Correct.
So I think we could pull together something and obviously attach all of the risk assessment and the reports, just so that the selectmen have all the information, make some recommendations. I'm a big fan of pollinator gardens, but that's something that the town would take on. That's not something for the family to worry about. That's kind of more, Jen Anderson, the recreation and things like that. I think there's some real opportunities there, but I think that comes after we kind of get through this process and make sure we're clear on with the selectmen on what they're acquiring, give them the information so that we can, say, yes, it's still very useful land. It's a beautiful piece. It's, it's something that the town can manage, and hear the recommendations type of stuff. And I mean, I think that would be kind of the next steps, but I guess is just to put it out there if anyone else has any comments. And again, just really appreciative of everyone working together and coming together and getting the right people involved to come to some resolution and understanding of the risk assessment.
So I guess we can go through. Jonathan, do you have any comments or questions or anything? Have you taken a look at the report?
I have. I took a look at the report, and just like others have echoed, I agree that I think it'd be a good decision to accept the property. And we appreciate it, obviously. And, It'll be a great spot for, Helen put it very eloquently, but I think it'll be a great spot for public recreation.
Does Jen Anderson have anything to add? And then obviously if the family have something to add, and again, I think everyone has said we appreciate, just the offer and the process that we've gone through.
Yeah, if I had, I have a comment or two or question or two. So I don't know if it's an internal discussion or a town council discussion, or if it's of a specific nature to the family. I'm gonna start my video too, sorry. Regards to if a certain commission has to accept the land, or I think we've talked about before, maybe with Leah, if it was like, so if it's fully a recreation commission piece and it becomes a sort of form of a park and whatever, or if it's some sort of agreement like I think what we're saying Silver Lake is, where it's under conservation commission like ownership but managed by the rec department. So if that mattered to the family, or it would obviously be a combination of one or both of us, conservation and recreation, helping fulfill their vision. And so I don't know if that's a conversation now, and Lee, I'm not sure either, but as long as the rec commission is obviously behind it, behind it, and we both submit our recommendations to the select board that we're accepting this property. But and if it comes into the mix, or if the family wants something specified regarding kind of who is, I guess, caretaker.
I actually think that's a great question to bring up. I think some of the kind of responsibilities and so forth, and just having listened, I think it'd be important that the parcel falls under Article 97. And so that has to do with the way that it's given to the town. And just for information, Article 97 basically says that if a parcel is donated for recreation or open space, and it's kind of a broad term, then it falls under Article 97, and it can't be, I'll give a worst case thing is that someone wants to convert it to a DPW building. It can't happen. It has to be maintained as either open space or recreation. And I think, tell me if I'm wrong, Jen, that's pretty much fits into what you're looking at. And again, this is my take on what the family's trying to do in memory of their mother, to have this as conservation land and recreation, but to keep it as open space. That would be more of the method at how it's actually given to the town, is to make sure it's specifically. And Leah, I don't know if we have specific language that we would recommend, or
I mean, what I've seen in the past, in past deeds for conservation properties, it just has language right in the front that says to be under the care and control of the Conservation Commission. So again, we'll welcome the family's input if they have a specific wish, but I think it could easily, or just as easily, say under joint care and control of conservation and recreation.
Yeah, and I believe that would make it fall under Article 97. That just gives it protection moving into the future. That's all that is. That's my only comment on that.
Okay, does anyone else have any questions or comments?
Actually, Alicia, I do. This is Bert Engvall, and if I may just say a couple things. First of all, thank you very much for accepting this. That's for starters. Unfortunately, I'm a professor, so I can talk a long time, but I won't. So thank you for accepting the land. And when we came to the Conservation Commission back on September 17th, 2019, it seems like a lifetime ago now, with all that's transpired since then. it was our goal that we would provide suggested uses. And I'm glad that some of these suggestions are taken. However, they were suggested uses mainly, to be honest, to make the parcel more attractive to commissions, boards, and the citizens of Grafton. So again, we just want to preserve the land. That was my mother's vision. She wanted it to be preserved, as Helen said, for future generations, not only her own children and grandchildren, but also others. So she would be very pleased. And I'm also going to add that when we made the offer back in September, it was as is. Well, I have to say as is considerably better than it was in September, and even than it was just a mere 2 weeks ago on April 21st at the last Conservation Commission meeting. Because for those of you who remember, Leah and Jen, I know you walked the property with me back in September or October. There were 2 large piles of metal debris. All of that is gone, and that's almost 8,000 pounds, including the oil drums. And our family has spent almost $8,000 to make sure that to reduce the liability to the town of Grafton, and also to make sure that it is not viewed as a brownfield site, which it is not, clearly. And we have the soil tested where the drums used to be. They're not there anymore. They were indeed empty, and there was no indication of oil or other hazardous substances there as well. So thank you very much for accepting the land. And Carl, I know you have made a few comments as well. I think that would be a great way to end our family comments. So Carl,
Sure.
if you'd be willing to share those, that would be swell.
Sure, I'd be happy to. And many thanks to the Conservation Commission as a whole for our time that you're giving us. We appreciate it. And Helen Cheney, thanks so much for that lovely speech. And you presaged some things that I've been thinking about is those 7 acres. I've thought also about planting some pollinator species flowers there, which would be lovely. And my brief research, very brief research, has shown that it would not be harmful to bees to pollen flowers that are grown in soil that has lead and arsenic. That sounds like a lovely use. And I have to echo what you say, much better use than bittersweet and Russian olive and honeysuckle and the invasive species, because we do have a focus. We would love to see the land past creation going on there, as well as conservation. And there's been a lot of public support. You can see it at the Grafton Land Trust Facebook page. But if I can just sum up by sharing that this past Sunday was my mother's birthday, and she would have been 90. And I know that Ma would be delighted beyond measure if, as a belated birthday present, her beloved farm, excuse me, would be in the caring hands of the good people of Grafton, her lifelong hometown. Thank you.
Wonderful. It's lovely.
And also, if I could just chime in, thank you, Carl and Bert, for setting that up. I think the town has a real good opportunity to acquire 17 acres here of prime land. And it already sounds like you're well on the way of establishing some best management practices to make it best available to the folks at Grafton, and we appreciate that. That's one of the main reasons we're doing it, is to share what we had with the town. I think Article 97 is a good way to go about doing that. We're fully on board with that, and working with you folks to get that done. And also appreciate your folks working with us to get the RTN in and get that all cleared up after that notification had been made to the state. So we're looking forward to getting that cleared up as well. Thank you.
Okay, so Leah, what would we need to vote on it or?
Yeah, it would be great if you guys took a vote on your recommendation to the select board.
Okay. So does somebody on the commission want to vote to recommend to the select board that we're going to accept the property at 93 North Street?
Patrick and I are looking at each other. So I'll make a motion to recommend, and again, it's our recommendation to the selectmen that they accept 97. Whoops, I don't have it right in front of me.
93.
93. Sorry. Parcel of land, and that that the recommendations found in the risk assessment generally be followed as far as the operation and kind of maintenance of that site. I think it's just important to make sure that they understand that the recommendations are there and those are the ones that we support. Yeah, I'll make the motion.
All right. Does anybody want a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Patrick seconds. So now we'll go through. Helen?
Exuberantly, yes.
Okay, and John?
Yes.
Okay, and I am Alicia, and I also vote yes. So motion passes.
You have to go through everyone, even though I made the motion. Yep.
Okay, Sandy, how do you vote?
I would be a yes.
Okay, Patrick, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay, now we all voted yes. So now we can accept the land or suggest to the selectmen that we select the land. Excellent.
Right. So.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Yes, thank you.
Involves.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for your patience and your efforts.
Yeah.
Above and beyond when you're donating property. Thank you.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
You're very welcome, and thank you for putting us first on tonight's agenda. So you can move on, and so can we.
Sounds good.
Okay. So since it is after 7:15, we can move on to the first of the public hearings. So the first one is for the E157W transmission line. So pursuant to the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Grafton Wetland Protection Bylaw, the Grafton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, May 5th at 7:15 via Zoom to act upon a notice of intent and application for Grafton Wetlands Protection Bylaw permit for geotechnical exploratory soil borings at 15 Windle Ave along the E157W transmission line right-of-way near 36 Nelson Street and 105 Westboro Road in Grafton, Mass. Is there anyone here for this hearing?
Good evening. My name's Teresa Portante with BSC Group here on behalf of New England Power.
Okay, so let's just go through this. I'm sorry, I didn't preview all of the documents ahead of time.
That's it.
Do you want to just go through a little bit of a summary of what you're going to do for the project for everyone?
Sure. And would it be okay if I shared my screen to be able to review the plans?
So I don't think it's going to let you, but I can certainly do it. I just need you to let me know what you would like me to put up.
Okay. Can I try on my end?
You can. I believe the settings will not
don't allow it.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me just try. Yeah. Bummer. Okay. Yeah, we can just share the environmental resources map that was included in the submittal.
Yep. Give me 1 second.
Okay, so I'll just start with just a summary of the project. So the proposed work, as discussed, is to conduct 2 borings. There's 2 structures that they are in the design phase, which is to design how the foundations for the replacement of these structures that is going to be coming up in the next year or so. It's structure 72 and 76. Those structures are going to be replaced in order to remove the structures that are located within that large beaver impoundment pond area in between the line. So this is the first phase, if you could think about it that way, to an upcoming maintenance project to get those structures out of the water. So there are 2 borings. If you want to, could you scroll down to the second page? Yeah, so, yep, perfect. So structure 76 is accessible off of Parmenter Road. There's an existing, this is a dirt road that they can access into the right of way. If you scroll down to the next page, it just shows the location. Yep. There you go. So there's structure 76 on the right-hand side of the screen. The existing structure is located within the buffer zone. So what they'll do is conduct 1 boring in close proximity to the existing structure location in order to get substrate information in that location. Again, along here, no access road improvements are needed or anything like that. They can easily access along the existing roadway. So if we could go back up to the first page. So currently this right-of-way does not have an existing good access to this section. It's bounded by the railroad to the south, and there's a historic access road that's located. If you look at the commercial property that's at the end of Wendell Ave, to the north of that structure, there's an old access road that runs along the river, and it comes up, it's off of the screen, but where it crosses an old dam. It's the Wendell Pond Dam. Currently, there's a break in that access road, and then so there's a big stream crossing in that location, and then the dam. Knowing that there's going to be an additional work on this line where they're going to need to be able to access it with concrete trucks. They need to establish a better access, not only for the upcoming project, but to be able to have a more an easier way, more reliable way to get into the right of way. And certainly they do not want to cause any impacts to the Wendell Pond Dam. It's been listed as a significant hazard. It's also a cultural resource area. So what they are proposing to do is to utilize their righted area to establish a new access coming in off of Wendell Ave. That is depicted here on this page. You can see on the left of the page, there's a new access road. Could you zoom in just a little bit?
Sure.
Yep. Great. So you can see there's just for legend purposes, there's an existing access road within the right-of-way itself. That's shown in yellow. And what they're proposing to do is cut in a new access. You can see it's like a orange-red tone showing this new access road coming in. It's basically going to come down as low, a smooth grade as they could in that location. That's how it was identified. Coming in just off of the end of Wendell Ave as a steep drop, which is why they brought it way up to the point that they're showing here. So it's more of a gradual to reduce any significant grading needs. And then it'll come down and then enter into the existing cleared right of way. To establish a path, they are proposing to remove 18 trees, which have been flagged out in the field. The majority of them are red oak. And then once they enter into the right of way, they will utilize temporary construction matting to cross the wetlands that are located in association with Summit Brook in this location. So in terms of impacts, there will be temporary impacts to BBW and associated with the construction matting. There will be trees removed within buffer zone, riverfront area, and BLSF. They're not proposing to do any grading within BLSF. Any grading, any minor grading they will conduct would be located outside of the floodplain to not result in any potential changes in compensatory flood storage in that area. Are there any questions?
So this is Sandy Brock, a member of the commission. What type of vehicle did a kind of just your standard rig for borings?
Yes, they're small drill rigs. Sometimes they're even operated. They're small, but they can be like a robot operated type equipment, but these are really small. The diameter for the boring that they make, these aren't like test pits like you would see for stormwater, where they do, a huge wide test pit.
I'm talking about the typical drill rig with the drill bit and everything on the back that a geotech would use. You're looking more at a track, like a small track machine.
Yeah,
okay.
These are small. The borings are, only half a foot in size, 4 to 6 inches. So, they're pretty small rigs that they use. The only other type of, equipment that they may bring out is a pickup truck in the area.
Okay.
For the
Thank
borings.
you.
Yep.
Yes, Sandy, they have drill rigs that are like one size up from a geoprobe. I don't know if you're familiar with geoprobes.
Yeah, we use geoprobes all the time. So I was just looking whether the sizes that.
Yeah, so they have drill rigs now that are as powerful as a truck mounted just about, but they're remote control. They're slightly larger than a track mounted geoprobe.
Okay, thank you.
Does anyone else on the commission have any questions or comments on this one?
I did just want to note, we did receive comments in our file number from DEP today. One of the comments was to establish a gate at the end of Wendell Ave, and certainly the company can do that, and they would look to do that just to be able to prevent any dumping and access into that location.
Okay. Okay, if no one else has any questions, do we want to make a motion?
I think maybe we should put out there that if anyone in the public has any comments, to please use the chat box.
Yep.
Or the chat function, I guess you'd call it.
I haven't seen anything pop up on chat. I just pulled it up again.
Yep.
Don't see anything.
Yeah, and it's just an opportunity for the public who happens to be attending this public hearing via remote. If you do have questions, you can just click on the chat and then actually ask a question to the commission.
So if I can just point out a couple of things for you guys. They did submit a waiver request for work within the no disturb, since they'll need to get so close by nature of the project. So that's a vote you guys will need to take, as well as Teresa said, those comments did come in just today. So one of them that if the commission is looking to approve this tonight, then I would suggest one of the DEP comments should be made into a special condition, and that is that they're looking for the length of proposed temporary bank alteration to be quantified in section B of the NOI. So if we could just make sure that that gets done. It also says bank stability should be restored following the removal of the temporary crossing. DEP recommends that the work takes place during periods of low stream flow if possible. And as Teresa mentioned, they recommend a gate or something to discourage ATV use in the area. DEP also noted that a 401 water quality certification is not required, provided that they meet 3 criteria that were listed out below. And they just noted that if anything changes to make them not meet those criteria, they would need to reevaluate that status for a 401 water quality certification.
So Leah, that second part, we don't need to make special conditions. It's really what's up above it.
Correct.
Okay.
It's the second paragraph.
Yep.
Above additional requirements.
And just to, if you don't mind, to speak to the linear feet of bank impacts. So the crossing with the matting would be, there's 129 linear feet. The intent is to span the bank to avoid impact, but of course, the condition can be included in there to ensure that restoration is properly conducted. But the intent of the matting itself is to fully span the banks to avoid an impact.
Okay, are there any questions or any comments from anyone on the commission or the public at this point after going through that? Okay, would someone on the commission like to make a motion?
Go ahead, Patrick, you get this one.
And don't forget the waiver request.
Well, that's I guess the waiver is the first step.
I guess I would move to grant the waiver for working within the, for working within the no disturb area? Did
Yep.
5-foot no disturb, yep. I'll second that.
Okay. Helen?
Vote yes.
Okay. Sandy?
Yes.
Patrick?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And I'm Alicia. I also vote yes. So that waiver passes unanimously.
And I'll make a motion that we approve the order of conditions with the following special conditions. Even though it was stated there's 129 linear feet of potential impact, I guess I'll call it, is that the length of the proposed temporary bank alteration should be quantified in section B of the NOI, and that bank stability should be restored following the removal of the temporary crossing, and that a work shall take place during low stream flow if possible, and that the access route from Wendell Ave be blocked once the work is complete with a gate or something else to discourage ATVs, dirt bikes, and other access to the temporary road. I think that's it. Done.
Okay. And does someone second?
I second.
Okay. So Helen?
Yes.
Okay. Sandra?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Patrick?
Yes.
I'm Alicia. I also vote yes. So this would pass unanimously by the commission. So I think we should be all set, right, with this one?
Correct.
Great, thank you, everybody. And just procedurally, will the conditions be emailed? And
So
as well as send out a hard copy?
We're currently working on and have on our agenda tonight, we're going through the process of getting us set up for electronic signatures to be acceptable with the registry. We got a couple steps we need to take, so it will be somewhat delayed, but once we have the necessary steps in place that the electronic signatures are set up and ready to go, we will be issuing that way. So then it will be emailed to you, but the registry is accepting the electronic versions as long as we go through these steps. So
yeah, it's the electronic signature is not a electronic replication of your signature. It's truly it's the third party signatures that, yeah, whatever. So there's a specific process that the registry of deeds is pushing, and because it has to be recorded, that's the hang up. So we're trying to basically accommodate what the registry is trying to do to avoid kind of everything being delayed.
Okay, I can follow up afterwards on timeline for that, just so I can convey.
Yeah, in the emergency legislation on a lot of things that happen right when we went to the stay home advisory and those type of things, there's actually a lot of basically conditions in there that allows for extended periods, right, Leah, for recording and all this other stuff. So
Correct.
yeah. but we're trying to get it all sorted out.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, everybody. Have a safe rest of your week.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, so now we'll move on to 21 Meadowbrook Road, which is a single family house. So pursuant to the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Grafton Wetland Protection Bylaw, the Grafton Conservation Commission will hold a hearing on Tuesday, May 5th at 7:30 p.m. via Zoom to act upon a notice of intent and application for Grafton Wetlands Bylaw permit for the construction of a single family house at 21 Meadowbrook Road in Grafton. So is anyone here? Yes.
I believe I've unmuted myself. Do you hear me?
Yes.
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 I am Robert Murphy with Murphy Associates, Environmental Consultants, and I'm here this evening representing James Conkey, who is the owner and applicant, 21 Meadowbrook Road. I have not heard anything from Art Allen. I believe the applicant has taken care of submitting a check or whatever. But with that in mind, I could reiterate the notice of intent is that we're planning on developing a stream crossing near the front of the property in order to access the upland area in the rear. Okay, there you go. That's good because my files are all in the office and I didn't have them with me today. I printed out some small copies. On this view, if you look, to Meadowbrook Road is to the right. The driveway would have approximately 150 feet of access through the upland area. And there's an existing stream passing north to south towards Meadowbrook Road. This area was an old farm crossing. It has well-defined stone walls on either side of the stream that were structural, and they were built out of very large boulders. And it's still there, although you really wouldn't be able to use it for a crossing. The intent is to replace the stone structure with concrete stone head walls and concrete chamber, the 8 by 12. If you look on the detail sheet, let's see if there's 2 8-foot sections of 8 foot.
Trying to find it for you. Hang on.
Yeah, see, I have very small details of it.
You were just on the right page, so it's the box culvert right there.
There's the box culvert right there. And we have the ratio 1.4, which meets the openness ratio. And the intent here is to open up the stream during a time when there's no flow. Obviously, we don't want to be working in this area when there's any flow at all. And the idea, what we're showing here is to have a box culvert that has a concrete bottom, reinforced concrete bottom, and build the substrate within it. I found in the case here, if you do get periods of scouring during high flow, that you wouldn't undermine any footings or anything with this type of design. You also make the substrate basically 2 feet, at least 2 feet deep, so that you're not exposing the bottom at all, but it just makes it structurally more sound. There are two views there, and you could see the openness view and then the end view showing the head walls on either side. The roadway is to be designed so that you have a high point on either side. You're going down, the stream is obviously the lower area, so the drainage goes toward the culvert, but there's a high spot right on the culvert, so the drainage from the driveway would go off into water quality swales, and the DEP had requested that we put some dams in there. So it's like every 30, 40 feet, we could put a stone check dam so that all of the flow from the driveway would be flowing off of the driveway. There's a crown on the driveway. It flows off to the side and into these water quality swales, and then it's dispersed. It does not go directly into the stream. It's kind of dispersed into the upland areas on all four sides. There's a lot of field stones on the western side of the stream. This is where the farmers, when they cleared the fields, they dumped all the stones along the edge of the brook. So there's a lot of rocks in there, and that would further disperse, almost act like a spreader type of effect. But you wouldn't have any water going directly into the stream. It would pass through the rocks. The driveway the intent is to pave the driveway and well, because there's so many rocks there, I think they can develop a very nice head wall on either end of it, make it like a wing wall effect, so that it would not be subject to the side slope erosion that you find on these kind of things. Like I say, there's a lot of rocks here to work with. Pretty much with that, I'd open it to questions from the commission.
Mr. Murphy, this is Helen Cheney. I am familiar with this area, but my slight concern is how long would something like this box culvert, the actual crossing, take, because upstream from this parcel is where it comes in contact with Merriam Road. We have a pretty significant beaver problem in the wetland and the swamp area, which feeds into this little brook, and then that goes down into the Great Meadows. But would this sort of construction take a long time? Because I don't know, the beavers are always damming up the pond, and the highway department is always pulling out their construction. And your comment to have this done, or your desire to have this done during a low water level season would certainly make a lot of sense. But I think you might want to take into consideration the work of the beavers upstream, which they don't seem to understand a progress like this.
Well, I could make a couple of comments at this time. We definitely want to do the work when there's low, or we'd like to do it during no flow. I haven't really been aware of the beaver problem there, but I know over the last few years when I've worked on projects in this area, the stream completely dried up for a considerable time. So if I can imagine if someone opened a dam, that might give you like a flash flood effect, and we wouldn't want that. So the actual, basically, you spend about 3 days doing your excavation work and preparing the stonework on either end, and then this comes in on a truck, an excavator, a type of a crane, but it's really the excavator that they just drop this thing in place. It's like a septic tank. You level the stone, make sure everything is leveled the way you want it, and you drop it in, and you backfill it immediately. And so the actual construction time probably would be from 3 to 5 days. And we could coordinate any efforts that the DPW or whoever is breaking the dam, although I understand you're not supposed to be breaking dams, but this may be a special situation. If we had good communication between, did you say it was the DPW that opens it up or whoever?
The town, yeah, the highway department.
Yeah. So what is it doing? Flooding the road? It floods the road?
Yeah, within the culvert up that crosses Merriam Road that feeds this little brook. The beavers continually work day and night and plug
blocking
up.
The culvert.
Yes.
So they're actually blocking the culvert.
Yeah,
I'm pretty familiar with what these guys do. But yes, we would have everything ready so that, for instance, if they wanted to open the dam, then we would make sure that we weren't doing any work at that time at all. And if it turned out that there was a timing involved, then they could go ahead and open up the dam a couple of days before we were even going to be in there. And then that would give us some leeway period while the beavers are, rebuilding it. It would give us 5 or 6 days, a week of lead time to get in there. But either way, it would be beneficial to us to coordinate any efforts with anyone that's impacting the flow.
Would my other question is, all of your heavy equipment and excavating equipment, would that to enter this whole project, would it come in where the driveway begins, or you wouldn't be accessing this from the other side of the stream, the little brook? Or would your heavy equipment would come in right at your entrance where you're on your
there's a construction entrance there.
Okay.
Yeah,
I don't see that, but
well, to answer your question, we really don't have access to the other side of the stream on this property or even abutting a property. So all of the access to do the work would be done from Meadowbrook Road through basically the way this project would progress is the first thing we would do is put in the construction entrance, which is a rubble stone, and then grade the driveway and put in the base stonework for that as well. We would be taking out, the topsoil, the subsoil. And there's a large enough field area here that we can do all of our storage and set up the work space. That could all be set up on the Meadowbrook Road side. And what we'd like to do is really do no construction on the other side of the stream until the Meadowbrook Road side is constructed and pretty much stabilized.
Could you just, so I know what I'm looking at, Leah, could you pull up that site plan again? And Mr. Murphy, could you show me on that where your construction road you'd be establishing?
Now, do you see my mouse?
No.
Okay, well, see the word Meadowbrook Road?
Yes.
Just above road.
Okay, I see
that dashed line, that scrolled, that dashed area, that's there's a detail for it, but that's the construction entrance.
It's also going to be the driveway, correct?
Right.
So it's one and the same, Helen.
Okay, yep, I get you now. I get you.
Yeah. So we can put in the stone, we could put in the rubble stone, which becomes
before we get to that, can we kind of back up just a little bit? Bottom line is that DEP made this comment And the presumption is that the stream is perennial. And you've stated that you've seen it dry up and so forth. That's fine. The bottom line is, as far as the application goes, we need to get, if you're indicating that it's not perennial, as the the fact that it's on the USGS maps as perennial, we need to get the information that it's not perennial. And if you're making that assertion, you need to submit to us that documentation so we can determine that it's intermittent. So I think before we start, getting too far down the road, right now the presumption it is perennial based upon the most recent USGS map, and that if we don't have riverfront, your plan says it's intermittent. So the first thing that we need to deal with is the fact that there's a disconnect between what the assumption is under the regulations and what you show on your plans. So that's kind of the first thing before we get too far, is to make sure that determination is correct. Because based on the information we have, the assumption is that it's perennial.
Okay, basically my response to that is that there was a determination made, but I guess now there's a time period of 3 years that I really wasn't aware of. But the applicant, the issue that rises here, the applicant was told by the owner, the seller, that they had a determination that this was an intermittent stream. And that's basically all they told me when I walked the property. I believe now that the determination was more than 3 years old. So
how about 14 years old? Is it?
If I can just cut in for 1 second, the determination is from 2006, and it only agreed with BVW and the 100-year floodplain.
So that's 14 years old. So it's a little bit more than 3 years. So, and again, I don't know if the beavers are impacting it or it is truly intermittent. I think that doesn't, from my perspective, if it is truly intermittent, then you just need to submit the, basically the evidence-based information that's required in the regulations. And so that part we need to get. Otherwise, you need to start putting that it's riverfront, the impacts of the riverfront, and all of that. And if it's not, and you're saying it's intermittent, then submit that information. And I'm sorry that the previous owner said something. To be quite honest, we can only look at the application in front of us at this point. So that's really, we have something that was submitted to us this year, and that based on the latest USGS map, it shows it as being perennial. So that's pretty much, what we have to go by. That's what the regulations say. And if you want to say it's not, then you need to submit that information.
Well, I'll bring that up with the applicant. I think that they were, like I say, I wasn't involved in this project when they originally bought it, but I can see where it based upon the time frame that we have now, it could probably just proceed with it as though it's a perennial stream. I was not aware that there was any problems with beavers back when I originally did the determination, and that was before 2006. So the beavers may be having an impact on it. That's something to take a look at.
Don't know. All I know is that we're going to look at the notice of intent that we have in front of us now, and so based on the current information, it's presumed to be perennial until it's not. I would agree with you. If it is perennial, there's ways to do that, but you would need to resubmit the application, and the plans need to be updated with the riverfront zones, the riverfront areas, and all the calculations submitted. So as the applicant, it's up to you to figure out how you want to proceed. Our presumption, based on the regulation, looks to the USGS map, the latest USGS map, and it's indicated as perennial. So based on the Wetlands Protection Act and the regulations, it's presumed perennial until someone provides the evidence that it's not. And it's not on us because it's presumed based on the USGS map. So it's up to the applicant how they want to proceed.
Yeah, the timing, I mean, we could wait till the stream dried up, but that's not till September or October. So I'll bring that up with the applicant and give them the option. I think initially they wanted to wait, but they weren't sure how this was going to play out. If it may behoove us to just, follow it as a perennial stream, just to move the project along. But the assumption here is going to be that we don't want to be working in the stream while there's any flow in it. So we're assuming that it's going to dry up. Right. But as far as timing is concerned, you're right. We would have to revise the notice of intent and do some calculations showing riverfront area and impacted area and all that.
Yeah.
I will bring that up with the applicant, and given that, I think I have enough information to explain that to him. I guess the way we could handle it is just to continue this meeting for at least a month. I'm not sure how often you're on, on Zoom or whatever, but I would say we would need to continue the meeting for May, June, probably sometime in June, just to, get all the paperwork up to date.
Yeah, I mean, we are holding meetings every 2 weeks. So, and
not
as
in the summer.
Not in the summer. I'm sorry. Do we start that in June or July?
June is the first month with only one meeting. It's
okay,
on the 16th.
Thanks. Okay, so the next meeting in June is June 16th.
Okay, so May you have meetings, but yeah, June 16th would be fine with me.
Okay.
Would someone like to make a motion to continue this to June 16th?
Well, I could request I'm requesting it.
Yes, so the applicant needs to request it, so that's been requested. So I'll make a motion that we continue this hearing to, I'm going to forget, May 16th?
June 16th.
June 16th.
Yeah, sometime around that, June 16th, thank you.
Mid-June.
Second that.
Okay, Sandy motion, Patrick seconded. Helen?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Pat?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
I'm Alicia. I also vote yes. So the motion passes. So we will see you back on June 16th.
Okay. Well, thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
All right. A new adventure.
New adventure.
Public hearing. Yes.
Very interesting. High tech. Okay. Well, take care.
Thank you.
So Alicia, if I can just make a suggestion about what we take next.
Sure.
If we skip down to discussion items, the last person that it appears we have tuned in here is Scott from the Upton Concom.
Okay.
So if we want to talk about the Warren Brook Conservation Area timber harvest.
Sure.
So it's pretty straightforward, but I wanted him to call in here in case you guys had any questions. So in Upton at their property, which is the Warren Brook Conservation Area, they're looking to do a timber harvest. They have a plan with a forester. If I can just show you guys on the map. So their property is over here in Upton, abuts Pell Farm in Grafton. So this is the town line here. So the main question that came up for these guys is there's this parcel here between Pell Farm and the Warren Brook Conservation Area. It's this triangle here where it says owner unknown. It's about, I believe, 3 acres. And so, I mean, it seems to be just that owner unknown. Both towns aren't quite 100% sure whose it is. And so he was researching the deeds to see what we can figure out. I checked with the assessor in Grafton, and they believe if it's over the town line, then it's Upton's. To my knowledge of Pell Farm, it only goes to the town line of Grafton, but they wanted to make sure we didn't have any issues or questions if they were to do their timber harvest as close as the town line and that unknown piece of 3 acres. And Scott, if you have anything you want to add, you can do so as well.
Thank you, Leah. I really don't have anything else to add other than nobody has paid taxes on that property in Upton, the owner's unknown parcel, and it's included now with the assessors has included it with the Warren Brook Conservation Area as part of that parcel now. So again, there was just some discrepancy with the Pell Farm properties. I just wanted to make sure that that was okay.
Yeah, this is Sandy, and I certainly don't have any issues with it. I mean, to really sort that out, you would end up going to land court and stuff, and it's just not, you know, if it's between 2 towns, and if when the town accepted or obtained that property and they went to the town line, then it could be truly unknown just because it's a leftover piece that was never surveyed because town lines aren't very accurate. It would take a lot of research. From my perspective, being in Grafton, we would assume that, you know, our property goes to the Grafton line. And I don't see any issue. I don't know if anyone else have any comments on it.
I have one question that I thought of, and that is access for all of this is going to be through Upton, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, the Upton Trail side and everything like that.
Yep, it's going to be off of Grafton Road is the access.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, my only other question is there anything out in the woods that you can see that marks the town line?
No, the only thing, Leah, if you want to pull up that old silver maple plan again.
Sure.
There is this, to the right of the screen, there's a high point of a stone post. That was found out there, but there isn't any obvious stone wall along the Grafton Upton town line that we've observed out there. The Pell Farm deed actually references a stone wall along the town line, but we haven't seen any evidence of that. So I'm not sure if it was dismantled way back when or what, but we couldn't find any evidence of it.
Yeah, what's the date of this plan, just out of curiosity?
Looks like
88, so that's not
looks
that
like
old.
88.
G&H, okay.
Yeah, 1988.
Yeah. I mean, I guess, so my only question is I certainly don't have any problem going up to the town line. I think it's just how you're going to find the town line. That's the only thing.
Yeah, we have it just by GPS. We've been able to locate it that way, even though there's no physical.
GPS could be 30 to 50 feet off. So
yeah, we're trying to stay a little ways away, so it's not going to be right up to the town line as far as the harvesting goes. We have to have a certain buffer from the.
Yep, and that's the only thing I'm looking for is, yeah, I have no problem with that unknown parcel. I'm just making sure that it's out in the middle of the woods and there's not a lot of evidence. You don't want to start going, you know, a couple 100 feet into someone else's property and, you know, not intentionally doing it, but just to somehow prevent that. That's all.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's all I have. Do we need a vote or anything on this, or is it more just for information?
Just a discussion item.
Okay. Yeah, I have no problems with that.
All right, well, thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
Okay, good night.
Good night.
Thanks.
Now the fun starts, Alicia. You get to read off all of these.
That's things I know. Oh, excellent. Oh, this is so exciting. Okay. So let's do 80. We'll do 80 Snow Road Lot 2. The applicant has requested a continuance to 5/19. So pursuant to the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act and the Grafton Stormwater Management Bylaw, the Grafton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, May 5th at 7:45 via Zoom to act upon an application for Grafton Stormwater Management Bylaw permit for the construction of a duplex at 80 Snow Road Lot 2 in Grafton. This applicant has requested a continuance to the 5/19 meeting. So can I get a motion?
This is Patrick. I motion to continue to 5/19.
I second it. This is Helen.
Okay. So I'll do the roll call. John,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Sandy,
Yes.
Helen,
Yes.
and I'm Alicia. I also vote yes. And so it passes, and we'll continue that one to 5/19. Moving on to 80 Snow Road Lot 3. Pursuant to the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Grafton Stormwater Management Bylaw, the Grafton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, May 5th at 8 p.m. via Zoom to act upon an application for Grafton Stormwater Management Bylaw permit for the construction of a duplex at 80 Road Lot 3 in Grafton, Mass. This applicant has requested a continuance to the 5/19 meeting. Can I get a motion?
This is Patrick. I'll motion to continue to 5/19.
Okay, in a second.
This is Helen. I'll second it.
Okay, John, how do you vote?
Yes.
Patrick?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Helen?
Yes.
This is Alicia. I also vote yes, and so it passes. Okay, now we're on to 18 Carroll Road. Pursuant to the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act and the Grafton Wetland Protection Bylaw, the Grafton Stormwater Management Bylaw, the Grafton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, May 5th via Zoom to act upon a notice of intent, applicant for Grafton Wetland Protection Bylaw permit, and application for Grafton Stormwater Management Bylaw permit for the construction of a 10-lot subdivision at 18 Carroll Road called Abbey Woods in Grafton, Mass. The applicant has requested a continuance to 5/19. Do I get a motion?
This is Patrick. I motion to continue to 5/19.
This is Helen, and I second it.
John, how do you vote? Patrick?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Helen?
Yes.
I'm Alicia. I also vote yes, and so this one passes. Now we're on to 88 Adams Road. Pursuant to the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, the Grafton Wetlands Protection Bylaw, in the Grafton Stormwater Management, in the Grafton Stormwater Management Bylaw, the Grafton Conservation Commission will let my dog will reopen a public hearing on Tuesday, May 5th via Zoom to act upon a notice of intent, application for Grafton Wetland Protection Bylaw permit, an application for Grafton Stormwater Management Bylaw permit for the construction of a 39-lot subdivision at 88 Adams Road called The Ridings in Grafton, Mass. The applicant has requested a continuance to the 5/19 meeting. Did everyone hear that okay with my dogs?
Yes.
Okay, so can I get a motion?
This is Patrick. I motion to continue to 5/19.
This is Helen, and I second it.
Okay, John?
Yes.
Patrick?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Helen?
Yes.
I'm Alicia. I also vote yes, so this one passes. So now we're on to 100 Westboro Road. Pursuant to the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Grafton Wetlands Protection Bylaw, the Grafton Conservation Commission will hold a hearing on Tuesday, May 5th via Zoom to act upon a notice of intent, application for Grafton Wetlands Protection Bylaw permit, and application for Grafton Stormwater Management Bylaw permit for the construction of a mixed-use development at 100 Westboro Road in Grafton, Mass. The applicant has requested a continuance to 5/19. Can I get a motion?
This is Patrick. I motion to continue to 5/19.
This is Helen and I second it.
John,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Mandy,
Yes.
Helen.
Yes.
I'm Alicia. I also vote yes, so this motion passes. So the last one we're continuing tonight is 124 Rear North Street and 73 Old Westboro Road. So pursuant to the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Grafton Wetlands Protection Bylaw, the Grafton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, May 5th via Zoom to act upon an abbreviated notice of resource area delineation and request for determination of applicability for the delineation of resource areas at 124 Rear North Street and 73 Rear Old Westboro Road, Grafton, Mass. The applicant has requested a continuance to 5/19.
I motion to continue to 5/19.
I'm Helen and I second it.
John,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Mandy,
Yes.
Helen.
Yes.
I'm Alicia. I also vote yes, so this motion passes. So now we are on to the action items. So the first one is the meeting minutes from the April 21st meeting.
I have no comments.
I don't have any comments.
No comment.
No comments.
Someone want to make a motion?
I'll motion. This is Patrick. I'll motion to accept the April 21st meeting minutes.
This is Helen and I make a motion.
Second.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, John,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Mandy,
Yes.
Helen.
Yes.
I'm Alicia. I also vote yes, and so the meeting minutes passed. Okay, and the last one is the vote to allow electronic signatures.
Yep. So I quoted the language for you guys for the motion you need to make. Then I will get a certificate of vote from the town clerk with this language and our meeting date and everything on it. And then we will record that certificate of vote. And then anything we want to issue with electronic signatures will reference the book and page of this recorded vote. And all of that is what is supposed to make it kosher for us to continue issuing permits and documents.
So the only question I have is who's going to pay for that?
It's going to come out of our budget.
How much is it?
105.
For how long?
To record it, it's recorded forever.
No. So the whole idea of do a third party verification of electronic signature, you typically have to pay for that service. So when you say electronic signature, it's not just someone signing it or using a facsimile of your signature. Electronic signature means that it's verified. And if there's various ways to do that, but there's a lot of companies out there that do it. It's pretty common with contracts and some other things. So the DocuSign, have you ever had to sign anything through DocuSign? That's a third party verification system. So the only thing,
hold on, can you back up a minute and explain this process you're talking about? Because I was under the impression and had talked to several people that the way we passed that RDA around last time for the Grafton Water District and you guys affixed your signature would be just fine as long as we go ahead and record this vote going forward.
Oh, if that's the case, then absolutely. It's one of those things when as like if I have to seal as a professional engineer, if I have to seal something, right, I'm supposed to do it with a wet stamp, or you can use an electronic signature, but there's a very specific meaning behind electronic signature. So I'm fine. I'm fine taking this vote as long as we're clear that provisions of MGLC 110G regarding electronic signatures does not require a third-party verification. So that should be fairly easy to find out. And it's really about, excuse me, it's all about what that MGL is and whether they have that language in there as far as what is defined as electronic signature. So
Okay, I can follow up on that. I was under the impression that it meant exactly what we did last time. It's just that last time with that document for the water district, they did not need to record that. That's why we were able to pass that around, get you guys electronic
and if it
signature or
is,
whatever you want to call that on those
Yep.
documents. And I was able to issue that one to them because those don't need to be recorded. However, we have voted on many orders and certificates of compliance that people are waiting on, and that's okay because of the governor's order. We're not doing anything we can't be doing by delaying issuing, but in order to let us have a procedure in place in the interim, this was the solution, to have a recorded vote where you guys are saying that that process we have been doing and will continue to do is as acceptable as your ink signature, basically.
Right. And I hope it is. Because that's easy.
I will check on that.
Actually, I just opened up and it actually.
None of the conversations I've been having or guidance documents I've looked at have mentioned third-party verification at all.
And that's because of just what I do in that. So if you do a plan set, you stamp it electronic signature. If anyone goes in and changes that electronic plan, it will actually, the signature itself will actually change to say it's been altered. That's the whole electronic signature stuff, but that's very specific for what we're doing. You have that on contracts too. I don't know if that's what this is. I'm fine with basically, saying that, hey, as far as as far as our understanding and as far as what, as far as what we're going to be doing, I'm fine with that. And I think that would be great if this is what it means. I just don't know that regulation at all. That's all.
I'm looking through it. It doesn't say anything that it needs to be like a third party verified in any of the definitions or any of the subparts in that legislation.
Yeah, I was looking through it too, and the definitions as generic as
it can be. Yep. It does. None of the sections that I would think would have something in it about it having to be traceable or anything of that. None of that's on here either.
Okay, it doesn't have to be verified and all that. If that's the case, then I'm all set with this. I mean, I that makes it much easier for everyone if this is what it takes. Sorry, just to kind of bring this up. I just want to make sure we're not saying something and then finding out that it means something different.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of surprised that would be allowable, but I guess since it's recorded here as well.
Right. I guess it's because we're all attesting to the fact that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
So.
Is it really that involves, it doesn't seem like a great sustainable process long-term from like the user perspective.
Is there an inexpensive like app for the iPad? Because we have the iPads that, we could use if we needed to, that we all could have access to, the ones that we use for the meetings. And I know many of us have our own iPads that we use at home as well. I don't know if we want to just have some sort of a verified something. There might be something that's fairly low cost. Sandy, you have more experience with probably than me.
Yeah, I think reading through this, I'm not seeing any reference at all to any kind of verification, and I think that's the only thing. As long as we're meeting the intent of this.
Yeah, I just see it being difficult from an administrative, because it's a PDF that we're emailing around.
If we're going to start like we did last time and emailing the PDFs around, can we have like a set order that it goes through? Like it goes from Sandy to me to Helen to John to Pat and then back to.
That's I tried to establish that in that email. I don't know if it actually played out or not.
How about instead of doing that, if we just use Dropbox? So can we go into Dropbox, download it, put our signature on it, and then upload it again? Or are you the only one available to upload it?
I believe you guys can only view.
Yeah, so that to me is another way to do is a shared document, which you could do. There's a number of different ways of doing that. I mean, Google Docs is the big one, but I'm just trying to figure out an easy way for you, Leah, to be able to do that without having to do this. I mean, there are some days, I'll hit multiple days in a row where I'm not really checking my emails from outside emails, and that would screw up any kind of chain that you try to do. But if you had like a place where you could, download it or share it, like a OneNote or something like that, that
Yeah,
everyone
that's
has
fine.
access.
I might be able to change the permissions on Dropbox. I'll
Yeah.
look into that.
Or even if you did a single folder that changed permissions, and that's the signature folder.
Mhm.
So we could allow, so then someone can just download it, add their signature, and then upload it again without. Go ahead.
Could that create multiple versions, or
Yeah, I was asking. Both download.
any kind of integrity issues with the documents?
So that would only happen if two people went in at the exact same time and downloaded it and then try to upload it. I mean, the best way to do it is a shared document like OneNote, where every single time someone changes it, it changes it in the cloud.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so it's like, so we use a lot of our stuff, through OneNote, like on the corporate side to share things so that people go in and sign it, but it's saved on the cloud, and then at the end you download it. So I don't know with the town if they have anything like that. If I could check if I can kind of squeak off something in my company where I could have you guys be. It's just a shared document approach. It's pretty straightforward. It's just having the resources to do it.
Okay, I'll look into a way to do a shared document, but how about as a backup plan, we do the email version, but we don't establish a chain. It's just, I send it to everyone. When you add yours, reply all with yours in it. Can that be the backup plan?
Sure, yeah.
Well, my only concern with that is you send it now. I go on and sign it. Sandy goes on and sign it. Helen prints hers, signs it, and then we all send you back. Then all of a sudden there's 3 circulating with multiple single signatures. Do you know what I mean?
I know what you mean. I just figured the odds of you guys doing it at the same time, based on when you guys just reply when we're asking for attendance, it's usually not at the same time, very rarely. So I figured it wouldn't be an issue. We can figure it out as we go.
Yeah, no, it's just, yeah,
it would be in my opinion, interim way to do it. But if it turns into a long-term thing, we should consider, or the town should consider, using something like DocuSign, where it's
even if it's not DocuSign, even if it's just a OneNote or shared Google Docs. I mean, you could do the same thing in Google Docs.
Docs is easy and for free if we only are having a few things up there.
Yeah, the only thing with Google Docs is security.
Sure.
So that's like, I know on like our OneNote that we use stuff, or some of our the stuff that we do on the cloud, it's of course it's all secure to just by password and other things. So that's different than public share type of thing. And I guess check with your town to see if they've got something. Check with Grafton to see if there's something like that you could do it. Otherwise, we could just do the email thing for the interim. And if we get multiple copies, then Leah can decide my signature doesn't count, and I get sent the other sheet with the multiple signatures on it or something. As an interim to get things going.
Yeah.
But yeah, this shouldn't be this long a discussion, but it's just it's official documents.
I've discussed processes a lot longer than this, so it's not. It's I've dealt with the processes that have been similar to this, and that's why I'm getting into it.
Yeah, no, it's a legal document, so we want to do it right, but we also this is unusual times. We do it right all the time when we're in person because we just sign it.
Mhm.
That's about the easiest, most basic thing. We're in different circumstances right now. So
Yeah, and we need something quick too, I'm sure.
Yep.
To get going.
but I'm sorry I derailed this, but I think the first thing we need to do is make a motion for that.
Very specific verbiage.
Right. Exactly.
Where was that verbiage?
It's on the very end of the report, I think.
Yep.
Yep. So.
Oh, I can't.
I'll make a motion. The Conservation Commission recognizes and accepts the provision of Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 110, Section G, regarding electronic signatures, and its members will henceforth execute documents either with electronic signature or with wet ink signatures that both will carry the same legal weight and effect. End of the motion.
I will second that.
John?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Helen?
Yes.
Patrick?
Yes.
I'm Alicia. I also vote yes, so the motion passes.
Yeah. So Leah, I'm going to ask our IT folks what the easiest type of thing to do is for a shared system.
Okay.
But your IT folks should be able to help you with that too. I mean, this isn't unique to conservation. It's all the different boards got to be going through this, right?
Some are designating staff to sign on their behalf. That doesn't work for us because our forms say right on them that they have to be signed by a quorum.
Gotcha. I totally get that. Yep. Okay.
I just have a question. I know social distancing is extended until May 18th, potentially longer. Has there been any guidance, like once they lift social distancing, are we still doing video meetings, or is that something we should talk about at our next meeting? Or
as of right now, we're continuing as is. Staff is home, meetings are virtual. As soon as I know otherwise, I'll let you guys know.
Okay.
Yeah, it's going to be a transition, and but I think it's a great question.
Yeah, that is.
Because it's also, do people feel comfortable going back and being in a setting of a public hearing with 30 people?
Right.
Not that we have 30 people a lot, but yeah.
Happen.
Yeah, I mean, I would not be thrilled to go in with sit in a conference room with even 20 people, and most of the people I don't know who they've been in contact with. That's, I think that's something, that's the other part of it too.
Yeah, I wouldn't be either. And I have a daughter who has had respiratory issues this winter. So I wouldn't be attending.
Right. And no, I think that's totally legit. I mean, yeah. And I think it's going to be a process. And I think it's great the town has the Zoom and we can still conduct business.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll have to, in 2 weeks when we have our meeting, we'll probably have a similar discussion. And then in June, I don't have any answers at all for that. I mean, everyone's struggling with the same thing. So.
And then I had another question. So since we have so many things, and I'm sure it's partially because of everything that's going on that keep being continued and continued and continued, once we go to our summer schedule and we're down to one meeting a month, I know we do that because a lot of people go away and take vacations and a lot of that stuff, which I'm guessing most of us that had them scheduled are probably not so much vacationing.
You got that right.
So if we start seeing, once things potentially open back up slightly, more construction starts happening, if we start seeing some really heavy agendas, do we potentially want to alter that summer schedule and meet, twice a month when we can, just to allow to not have meetings that go till 10 o'clock at night?
Yeah.
I would say yes. I mean, yeah.
I just wanted to bring that up too, because just with the amount of continuances tonight, and then, I'm assuming once things start to open back up, maybe more construction is going to be happening. Some of the people are gonna want to get their projects rolling, and do we want to have, 12 things on the agenda for one night in June?
Yeah. No, it's a good question. I think, Leah, we've done that in the past where sometimes if we run into issues with being able to hold a meeting within a certain time frame, then you might have to add a second meeting. But our
Correct.
schedule is our schedule. But if we have to do something, and I think, Alicia, you're right, I'll probably be available.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, gonna be
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
We can't set our plans.
The conversations in my company and on the side of commercial construction have been, when this opens up, even, Boston and Cambridge and whatever, but, Metro West and whatever, when it starts to open up more, it's going to be like a mad dash.
Yeah.
So
My husband's hearing the same thing. They're talking about as soon as they open construction back up in Boston, having him work 6 or 7 days a week, going at 10-hour days, all that stuff. So I'm just assuming that once everyone starts rocking and rolling again, that a lot of these projects that are not necessarily urgent right now are suddenly going to start, wanting to get going quickly.
the owners want the same due date, even though they've missed a month or two. So 7-day weeks and double time and triple time and whatever. So
We won't know. I mean, we're not slowing down on the design side.
Right.
But I can't tell you what the, where it will be in 3 months and what the, the GDP will look like and what projects go ahead and don't. I don't think anyone can. I think there will just be a definite rush to get everything done that's out there. And then we'll see what happens after that. Can't tell you.
They ask me that every day as an estimator. So
yeah, that's like, construction costs were going through the ceiling is
What's
the
happening now, John?
expectation. Yeah. The expectation is as soon as it gets going again, all the construction costs are going to go down 25%. I don't think that's going to happen. But, you won't know until you're there.
Right. No one can predict that. So I think it's a good point to bring up if we need to add summer meetings. I'm for it as well.
Yeah. I'll be available. So.
Okay.
Good question.
Good. Okay, so there's one more motion.
I would motion to adjourn the meeting.
I second it. This is Helen.
Okay. John?
Yes.
Patrick?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes, nice job tonight.
Helen, thank you.
Yes.
And I'm Alicia. I also vote yes. So the meeting is adjourned.